در اولین ساعات ممکن برید رأیتون رو در صندوق‌ها بیاندازید. توصیه دوم این است که در هر حوزه‌ای به تعداد لازم برای اون حوزه رأی بدید، به کمتر رأی ندید. امروز چشم بسیاری از مردم دنیا، چه آحاد مردم و چه افراد سیاسی و صاحبان جایگاه‌های معتبر ملی و سیاسی، امروز چشمشون به ایرانه، چشمشون به شماست. میخوان ببینن که شما چه میکنید در این انتخابات و نتیجه انتخابات شما چه میشه. هم دوستان ما و افرادی که علاقمند به ملت ایرانن، هم بدخواهان، اونا هم همینجور. دوستان رو خوشحال کنید و بدخواهان رو ناامید کنید. و اما پاسخ به سؤال ایشون که آخرین حرف من خطاب به مردد این چیه؟ آخرین حرف من این است که در کار خیر حاجت هیچ استخاره نیست.
Iran's Constitutional Council has the important role of overseeing the electoral process and confirming the final result of the elections. Our correspondent Gisumi Shahmadi Amir talked to the spokesperson of the council, Hadi Tahan Nazif, at a polling station in Tehran.
We've witnessed the voting of our people from the very early hours. And as you can see, in midday, we see such great crowds here. And this shows that people deem it important to use their right. The future of the country is important to them. The future of themselves and their children are important to them. Thank God that there's been no problem since the beginning of voting, and everything has been smooth and facilitated, and people are casting their ballots in the two parliamentary elections and the Assembly of Experts elections. Since the morning, we've been overseeing the elections. We have not seen any special irregularity since the morning. And some minor issues have been removed. We have not had any special problem. As well as the 230,000 public supervisors, we have also introduced a system so that all the 80 million population of Iran can supervise the election. So if there is any potential irregularity, they could document it for us.
Our correspondent Gisumi Shah Ahmadi is joining us now from one of the main polling stations in the Iranian capital, Tehran, with all the latest as voting hours are winding down on election day. Gisu?
You're absolutely right, Bardia. In about half an hour, the official voting time will be over. But, well, traditionally, we do know that this time is usually extended every hour, usually until 11 p.m. So that's what we're expecting
Thousands
to happen.
of desperately hungry civilians in northern Gaza gathered on the street before dawn on Thursday,
that's the way it usually
hoping to
goes,
find food on a humanitarian convoy. Instead, hundreds were killed and injured.
One of them, people, like I've said before, in Iran are usually those 90, the last-minute voters who turn out at the final hours all of a sudden and they want to cast their ballots. So basically the polling stations right now all across the country are more crowded than they were throughout the day, and therefore it is expected that the Interior Ministry will extend the voting hours.
All right, and if you've had any chance to talk to the voters, if you can tell us about the mood and the atmosphere, and what are some of the main concerns for the voters as they're dropping their ballots?
Well, Actually, Badia, as it usually is, and this time around this is even more significant than ever, people who turn out to cast their ballots mainly do so because they see it as a social and religious duty, most importantly, a religious duty, Badia. And they see this as a display of their solidarity with the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's a show of support. So this is basically the main motivation, no matter what the situation is, no matter what the political atmosphere is. Those who turn out because of this as the most important reason. But then again, of course, there's always hope for change. And this time around, like I've said in the morning, I talked to a large number of voters, and the difference I see this year, and Badia, I've been covering elections in Iran for the past 18 years, what I see as the main difference is that this time it seems voters seem to be very educated. You know, they're looking for a specific candidate with a specific agenda. They've actually instead of trusting certain lists provided by political parties, they are handpicking the candidates, particularly in the capital, Tehran. And probably that is because they've had a bad experience with the previous parliaments when they had simply trusted certain lists provided by political parties, and then the parliamentarians did not turn out to be what they had expected. So interestingly, when I was talking to people who were casting their ballots, I even had a large number of people telling me that they had chosen different candidates from different lists. And you know that in Tehran we have about a dozen of these lists provided by different political parties. So like I said, this time around, it seems that the voters know exactly what they're looking for, and they will definitely be holding those parliamentarians that do win the votes, they will hold them accountable.
Thanks a lot, Gisu Press TV's Gisu Shah Ahmadi joining us from the Iranian capital, Tehran, with all the latest updates from Election Day in Iran. Well, religious minorities in Iran are also casting their ballots alongside their fellow countrymen in the nation's legislative and assembly of experts elections. The Archbishop of Tehran says that elections are the sign of stability in any country.
Usually, elections taking place in any place, it is a sign of that country's stability. And now in Iran, when the election of the parliament is going on peacefully, rightly, this is a sign of the Iranian society's well-being. Therefore, it is important to participate in the election. Election, as I said, it's a sign of sound society. And thanks God that in Iran, the election that is taking place, it's a sign of the sound of society in Iran.
Moving on, the situation remains volatile along Lebanon's southern border. That's where the resistance movement Hezbollah and Israel have been engaged in almost daily clashes since early October. In its latest operation, Hezbollah has targeted a gathering of Israeli troops. For more on that, we're now joined from Beirut by our correspondent Mariam Saleh with all the latest details. Mariam, what do you have to share with us and our viewers?
Well, the day began with a Hezbollah statement saying that they have taken down another Israeli drone. They did not specify what type of drone or that they do have the parts. That was done in the middle of the night. They said that they have taken it down or over the valley of Al-Azzi. That is considered, of course, part of Hezbollah's new strategy of taking down the drones that are constantly hovering over the heads of the people in South Lebanon, even reaching areas of Beirut and even northern Lebanon. Now, other, of course, operations have been very significant. Today, we had an extensive targeting of Israeli soldiers. Hezbollah declared and has confirmed that they have targeted soldiers in Ramim actually, and also in the vicinity of Al Manara post. And that barrack specifically is one of the very few times where Hezbollah also specifies that they know there was casualties, whether soldiers were either killed or wounded. Hezbollah does not usually say that, since they could not really independently and directly verify that. But in this instance, this is one of the very few times where Hezbollah says in their statements that this operation led definitely to scores of Israeli soldiers killed or wounded. We also had another significant operation. Hezbollah used kamikaze drone to target a group of soldiers with actually, Hezbollah said that they targeted an infantry that was preparing to go and be deployed in a certain area in the settlement of Ma'ayon Yaroch. And this is the first time, I think, that we have a targeting in that area specifically. Hezbollah also targeted the settlement of al-Baghdadi post specifically also. And so in addition to those Hezbollah operations, the Israelis continue with their shelling. We had very heavy shelling actually in the towns of Ramya and Beit Leaf. And today also we had a funeral for two civilians, a man and his wife in their 60s. They were laid to rest today, and they were killed yesterday by Israeli strike in the town of Kafra. And that is one of the few times that that town specifically has also been targeted, since it is considered relatively far away from the border. Of course, we are seeing a escalation from the Israeli side. Hezbollah is also retaliating as a result of these Israeli shelling, but it seems that the situation is growing more and more volatile. We are seeing, like I said, more Israeli escalation, and the fact that the Israelis are hitting specific areas that are we're going to see that there are more and more civilian infrastructures that basically debunks all the calls and the reports that they have for their people, saying that they are targeting Hezbollah sites or manufacturing sites and so on. When the authorities go to check on those areas, they can see that there are only civilian infrastructure and civilian houses and residents that are being destroyed by the Israeli shelling, whether artillery or from its fighter jets.
Thanks a lot, Mariam. Press TV's Mariam Saleh joining us from the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Elsewhere, Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza continues. Scores of Palestinians killed and hundreds more injured in the past 24 hours.
Thousands of desperately hungry civilians in northern Gaza gathered on the street before dawn on Thursday, hoping to find food on a humanitarian
several
convoy.
civilians and leaving many others injured. The
Instead,
regime's forces
hundreds
also
were
launched
killed
strikes
and
on the
injured
southern
trying to get
cities
aid from the
of
trucks,
Rafah and
according to
Khan
Gazan
Younis.
health
The death toll
officials.
from the Israeli onslaught on Gaza since
Local
October
hospital
7th
staff
has
said
now
scores were
surpassed
killed or wounded by gunfire.
30,200.
The Israel
More than
Defense Forces claim that most of the
71,300 have
victims
also
were
been
trampled
injured.
or run over
According
by
to Gaza's
vehicles,
health ministry, at
and that
least
their
13
soldiers only
children have
fired
so
at a
far
group of people
starved
who
to
were
death
threatening their
in the
forces.
besieged territory.
The aid convoy.
Israeli officials declined to provide unedited
International condemnations are pouring in over the Israeli massacre of innocent Palestinians scrambling for food and life-saving aid in northern Gaza.
For heaven's sake, put an end to killing civilians, children, women. According to the information that we have, dozens of them have bullets in their heads. It was intentionally targeting and killing. And the number that we have now is 112 have been killed, and the number is increasing, and 750 injured, and possibly the number would be increasing. This outrageous, massacre is a testimony to the fact that as long as the Security Council is paralyzed and vetoes casted, then it is costing the Palestinian people their lives.
The Secretary General condemns the incident today in northern Gaza, in which more than 100 people were reportedly killed or injured while seeking life-saving aid.
France has also reacted to the massacre, with the country's ambassador to the UN saying civilians and civilian infrastructure should never be targeted. China strongly condemned the Israeli crime of opening fire on aid seekers. Meanwhile, the Iranian Foreign Ministry said that people will never forget the plight of Gaza and the U.S. support for the Israeli genocide. Turkey, Egypt, and Jordan are among the regional countries that have condemned the carnage. Brazil's foreign ministry has also slammed the attack, calling for an end to such mass crimes across the besieged territory.
Humanity is failing the civilians of Gaza, and it is time to prevent further massacres. It is up to the international community to call a halt to it and to avoid new atrocities.
The statement also said the Israeli regime has once again proven that its onslaught in Gaza has no ethical or legal limits. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock also called on the Israeli occupation forces to open an investigation into the attack. The UN Under Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs warned that life is, in his words, draining out of Gaza. South Africa said the massacre violated international law and an order by the top UN court calling on Israel to avoid genocide. In Gaza, Israeli soldiers on Thursday opened fire on starving Palestinians who were waiting for aid delivery in Gaza, killing and wounding hundreds of them. Since Israel launched its genocidal war on Gaza in early October, it has spared no one and no place, including homes, hospitals, schools, and mosques. In an act of defiance and resistance, Palestinians in the southern city of Rafah have been holding Friday prayers over the ruins of one such mosque called Al-Farouk. Let's take a listen to what some of them had to say.
This is an ideological war that affects many mosques and hospitals. Why destroy and bomb houses of God? What is the fault of the children who are orphaned in the face of this destruction and organized terrorism, covered by official international endorsement from states and from the West? These mosques refuse to be silenced, and the call to prayer will continue to resound, growing louder. Despite this occupier and their arrogance, we must uphold God's rituals and continue to hold Friday prayers in this place.
Our message to the entire Islamic nation is to look at the condition of Muslims and the state of the mosques in the Gaza Strip. The occupation may have destroyed nearly 500 mosques or more. Now, out of 1,250 mosques in the Gaza Strip, almost half have been destroyed by the occupation. Our message to the Islamic and Arab nations is that they must include these mosques in their future plans so that we can rebuild the houses of God and hold prayers, Friday prayers, and congregational prayers in them, and tease the enemies to establish mosques again.
We pray in this place because I opened my eyes to this mosque since I was young. At the age of 6, I used to pray in this mosque. We're residents of this area. The mosque is not even 200 meters from my house, and we have prayed in it all our lives, even when it was bombed. It is not enough for them to destroy the moral of the Palestinian people, demolish homes, kill people, and wipe out entire families. But this is not just the goal of the Israeli aggression on mosques. Rather, the goal is to prevent the spread of religion and Islamic awareness among the people.
Intense battles are also continuing on the ground in Gaza, with Palestinian resistance fighters repelling attacks by Israeli forces. The military wing of the Islamic Jihad has released a new video showing its fighters clashing with Israeli soldiers in and around Al-Zaytun neighborhood in the Gaza city. The Al-Quds brigades also launched mortar shells at a gathering of the regime's soldiers in northern Gaza near the Erez crossing. Also in the north, the Mujahideen brigades hit a Merkava tank with missiles. The resistance groups also said they'd shot down an Israeli drone in the southeastern part of the Gaza Strip. Tel Aviv says a total of 242 Israeli soldiers have been killed since the ground fighting began in Gaza in late October. Palestinian resistance groups, however, say Israel is concealing the actual number, which is much higher. People have once again taken to the streets across Yemen in a show of support for Palestinians in the Gaza Strip in the cities of Saada and Sana'a. People waved Palestinian flags and chanted slogans against Israel and its main supporter, the U.S. The protesters have been holding rallies on Friday since Israel launched its genocidal war in early October. They held pictures of their leaders in a show of support for their pro-Palestine operations. Those operations have targeted Israeli-linked vessels in the Red Sea in an effort to pressure the regime to stop its genocide in Gaza. The Yemeni protesters also voiced support for their army's operations against U.S. and UK ships in response to their ongoing airstrikes on Yemen. The airstrikes began in the wake of Yemeni attacks in the Red Sea. Let's wrap for now, but stick around. There's plenty more to come here on Press TV. See you soon.
Crisis, devastating wars, terrorism, the Israeli lobby, crackdown, diplomacy,
Iranians disappoint the ill-wishers.
Either you're with us or you're with the enemy. There's no in between, and that doctrine still stands.
لو وافق صدام على كل قرارات الأمم المتحدة وعلى كل ما تريده الولايات المتحدة لكان قد أطيح به.
كان المفروض عندما يسقطون النظام يسلمون الدولة للمعارضة. هم أسقطوا النظام والدولة معا وسلموا المعارضة صراع على السلطة.
أول من وجه ضربة للأمريكان في العراق هي الفصائل الشيعية المدعومة من أبو مهدي حجاز.
یک سوال بزرگ در مقابل آمریکا ایجاد شد که شما اشغال کردید آمریکا را، چی عراق را چی به دست آوردید؟
حاجد أيضا كان عامل جديد غير المعادلة، لذلك الأمريكان أسقط بيده.
في فترة ترامب جاءوا وقالوا بصراحة